Welcome to All Things Women Talk Show Season 4, Episode 1. We are here in Emporia, Virginia, and we have teamed up. Yes. I'm so excited. I'm here in my hometown, Emporia, Virginia, and I have partnered up with the amazing Brittany of Winning Women. She has a movement of empowering women. We're going to start the show off with something very exciting, something that we have never done before, called our Masterpiece Makeover. So at this time, without further ado, we're going to stand on our feet and welcome God's Masterpiece into the building. Miss LaQuisha, come on in. And we're going to just talk about what we were able to do with her look. This has been such an amazing journey. Beautiful. To watch her transform. So we're going to start off really quickly with allowing our stylist to talk about what happened with her hair. What did we do with her hair? I'm going to ask everybody to come on down.
Okay.
Yep.
So LaQuisha was a great canvas because she said, do what you want to do. And you know, as stylists, that's what we want to hear. I just gave her a disconnected pixie, left her front long, put some fall colors, reds, oranges, and browns, and that was it. And she is wearing it. Don't you agree?
Yes. How much did you actually cut off?
Ooh, it was about 6 inches.
6 inches.
Wow. 6 inches.
Wow.
And I left it so that she could still maintain it. It's not too short. You know, I would go shorter, but you know, I left it so she could still curl it and maintain it at home.
Now, is it natural or relaxed?
The sides and the back is relaxed. The top is still natural for the fullness.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we put two mindsets together and came up with a solution. I love it. All right. So now we're going. Thank you, Shantae. Listen, hold on before you go.
Okay.
Tell everybody where they can get their hair done.
I am located at Sheer Designs Hair and Beauty Lounge, 408B South Main Street. I recently opened up my salon about 3 months ago, so I would love for you to stop by and say hey. And let me transform your look like I did with you.
So next we have the beautiful Jornell, who has just started her makeup artistry journey. So we're going to ask her what she actually did with her look.
So, LaQuisha was actually fun to actually do her makeup for. She's never had makeup done before in her life. So this is her first time, you know, getting a full face. And we actually were able to do some contouring, some pretty eye makeup, and we left it pretty natural. So, I think she looks beautiful.
Yeah. She does.
And she liked it.
Now, LaQuisha, do you still feel natural? Because I know sometimes, you know, we get our makeup done and we feel like a whole different person. So do you feel like you're still, like you look like yourself?
I do, but these shoes.
We're working on the shoes, and that's a great transition. Can we give Jornell another round of applause? So we have none other than, and we're going to interview her later, but we have Ashley, who is a fashion blogger and plus style stylist.
Bad because she said something about the shoes.
No, it's all good. Well, we're going to get into that. We're going to talk about that when we interview. But tell us what you did with her look. How did you put it together?
Okay, so LaQuisha let me know that she's all about comfort. I'm sorry about the shoes. But no, seriously, I didn't want to take away from who she is. And as a stylist, you don't want to go all, too elaborate and the person doesn't feel like themselves. Mm-hmm. So I gave her some cute little distressed jeggings where I know she would be comfortable and still able to move, and a top that covered all of the areas that she said that she wanted to cover. And I like.
And talk about these florals. Is that something that we should be looking forward to?
Yes.
Okay.
Fall is for florals. Wear your florals, and I see so many of you have florals on, and you guys look amazing. And I also wanted to bring another trend into her look, which is a cold shoulder. I love a cold shoulder, and it brings just the right amount of sex appeal without being too much.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yes. So one more time, we're gonna have the whole glam squad Squad just kind of come on and we're going to get our photo ops. But we want to thank you all so much for coming together to change someone's life. And that's what we're here for as women, to enhance each other and to encourage each other and empower each other. And LaQuisha and I went to school together, and I'm honestly just really, really amazed. We're going to get you into some flats. Don't worry about it. I'm a flats girl, so I get it. I'm all about comfort. But we want to definitely just use this as a display of what we can do when we come together as women, right? We come together for one purpose and one vision.
Yeah, that's it.
So let's give it up for our masterpiece. So at this time, we're going to begin the show. I'm kind of just talking about why Brittany and I decided to come together with our visions, and then we're going to get into our first interview. So first of all, the reason why I created All Things Woman Talk Show was to celebrate the masterpiece of woman. And what do I mean when I say masterpiece? I mean that each and every one of us, we have our own lives, we have our own challenges and struggles and obstacles, and I personally believe that God is the greatest artist, and that as we're going through these things, God is molding us and He's shaping us. Just like when I create a piece of art, it takes time. There's a process. I might do something and come back 3 months later, right? And so I don't know about you all, but I feel like I'm always going through some molding and some shaping. I'm like, God, again, here we go again. So once one thing is perfected in my life, then God, comes and works on something else. Then the season changes, and then He has to go back and start working on that thing again. And so that's the reason why I started All Things Women Talk Show, and I'm so excited because this is actually season 4, episode 1, episode 22 overall. So I'm just grateful to God. I'm just grateful to God. This is an out-of-the-box ministry, right? So if I was a pastor, this would be my church. This is what I would do. It's out of the box. It's out of the 4 walls, but it's also still ministry, and it's still ministering to the needs of God's women. Amen? Amen. So with that being said, I want to talk really quickly to Brittany about her vision. She has a movement right here in Emporia, Virginia. Please support it, called Winning Women. So Brittany, tell us why you actually started Winning Women, and what is a winning woman?
It's really crazy. I was at home, and the idea just kind of came to me. Mm-hmm. I wasn't like searching or, like praying for like some kind of vision. It just came to me. And a lot of times when we like dwell on stuff too much, it just doesn't work out. Mm-hmm. Right. So I was like, maybe I should just, focus on winning women. And anybody can be a winning woman, and we all have different, professions. We all live different lifestyles. And that shouldn't make us any different. We can all bring to the table something to help one another. So that's the main thing. It started off focusing on women with businesses.
Okay.
But after the first event I did in June, I decided to kind of like expand on everything. Yeah. So that's really how it started, yeah.
So in other words, I don't have to be winning at everything in my life to be a winning woman.
Exactly.
Because I don't know about y'all, but I fail every day at something. I'm like, if I could just get through this one day, I won. So I love that vision, and I love the fact that it's not about perfection. You know what I mean? It's about living your life and being a better you. And that's the same mission that I have. So I'm so excited to be here with you.
It was a perfect combination.
Yes, coming together has been no issues. We have just vibed off each other, and I'm so excited. So at this time, without further ado, we're going to get into our first guest. Now, this woman is amazing. Come on up here, Precious. And I want to really quickly call attention to our live artist of today. Part of the show that makes it different than any other show is that I always have live art on my show. So can we give it up for Jasmine? Really, she's a teenager. And it was really important to me to connect with the artist that was, from Emporia, and so I'm so glad that she's here today. But without further ado, let's get into Miss Precious. Please tell me how you do it.
Okay, guys. I first would like to thank everybody that's here to support me. I really, really, really appreciate it. I wanted to say thank you to my church members that are here, To Sister Femi Gordon, who's back there with Lilu Designs, in case you guys are wondering who actually created my ensemble on today. Please check her out. And to my baby boo, who's probably watching, D.L. Williams, I love you. But, you know, I really was thinking about this, Ebony, and what I would say today. And if I could tell everybody to bring a trash can, that would be the first thing, because you hit the nail on the head when you were talking about every day you feel like something. And so we kind of throw this word balance around so loosely, and I do not believe there's any balance. What I believe is that you survive the season that you're in, that you take everything one day at a time, one stride at a time, one decision at a time, one action at a time, and you feel good about that. Releasing the guilt that we sometimes place on ourselves, we project it on ourselves because we weren't able to be everything to everybody. For those of you who don't know me, I am married for the second time, and we have a blended family. It's going to get really complicated really quickly. So, when my husband and I married, we had 3 children. I had 2 children. We now have 2 children together. So in total, we have 7 children, ranging from a senior in college all the way down to an 8-month-old baby. And so we are busy. We're busy. The children are at different stages of their lives. So I think one of the things we wanted to talk about today is how we have been able to blend our families successfully. I praise God that we'll be celebrating 5 years of marriage on So still practically being newlyweds on top of all of the responsibilities that comes with being a wife and being a mother. The first thing I would like to say is, of course, you know, referring to a biblical scripture that says, "Be as wise as a serpent." And my husband and I have been talking about that. I think one of the most common mistakes we make when we're blending a family is going in and not learning the lay of the land. So we go in with our own ideas, our own culture, right? Because when we talk about culture, we're not just talking about 2 races combining. We all have a family culture. We all have a way we wake up in the morning, we eat dinner, we go off to work, we get the kids to practice, or we take care of our spouse or ourselves. And when you're blending 2 families, practically, you're also merging 2 cultures. And so when I married my husband, I went into that home and was like, oh no ma'am. From A to Z, there were things that immediately I started thinking, I don't like this, I don't like that, I want this picture on the wall, I want to take this down, I want to do that. They don't eat dinner at the table, they eat it in front of the TV. Wrong. And so I had to take a step back. And that scripture is so important, be as wise as a serpent, because if we think about the serpent, really, a serpent studies the lay of the land. The serpent is going to learn where the rocks are, where the hiding spots are, where the high traffic areas are, so that the serpent knows what's advantageous and what's disadvantageous. And so I would really suggest going in with an open mind, an open heart, really putting that energy in respecting what's already been established, and learning what your role is.
It reminds me of just getting married in general. Whether it's a blended family or not, you're bringing 2 mindsets, right? You're bringing 2 backgrounds. You were raised one way, this person was raised another way. And we'll get into that marriage conversation in a moment here. But you're bringing 2 worlds together. And so I can only imagine what it was like to add to that, bringing someone else's children, you know, and your children into a situation which, wow.
It's like opening a book in chapter 15.
Wow.
You can enjoy that book moving forward, but it really would help if you knew what happened in the previous 15 chapters. So it's a unique challenge, but it's doable.
Clearly. I mean, you look at that, it's doing it, honey. And I do want to say, just so you know, people who are watching know, not only is Precious a mother and a wife, she's also a first lady. And she's also a business owner. And so I guess my other question is, on a day-to-day basis, what can we do as women to not go crazy?
Okay.
What can we do? Please help us out. What can we do? Just sanity, like little things that you do.
First thing I do in the morning is I affirm myself. And I mean, I really get down to it. I get in the mirror, y'all, and I'm like, girl, you look good. Girl, you're doing it. You know, your curls popping this morning. I mean, this is even before the kids wake up, before my husband wakes up. Anything, I'm already starting to build myself up. And then you have the more formal affirmations that you do. My business is thriving. My business is growing. My energy attracts what I need. Everything that I need is already in place. God is going to give me everything to provide, you know, my needs and what have you. I do this daily. Even at work on my desk, I have affirmations that's taped to my desk. And I look at those and I read those until it gets into my spirit. Yeah. So that's one of the things that I do for myself. But the advice that I would give is just know that life happens in seasons. And I kind of talk to my friends about this a lot. And I tell them sometimes it's your husband's season. Okay? Yes, and you're going to play the role where I'm supporting him. I'm supporting his vision. I'm, you know, going to be whatever he needs me to be. Sometimes it's the children. You're pouring your energy into school, them, their activities, their grades, whatever it is they need, or just that personal mommy, you know, I have one daughter that's in the home, mommy, daughter time, girl time, or, you know, trying to find out how you can have a relationship with your sons, because that's different as well. Right. And then sometimes it's you time. So I'm in the season right now where it's me time. Okay. And I'm okay with that. And I'm taking the time to focus on my passions, my business, getting my body back right, you know, all of the things that I have neglected so that I can support everybody else, and I don't feel guilty about that. That's good. So you just have to be available to do what's needed in the right season.
I love that. I love that. I love that.
And I will say for myself, I'm glad you said that, because sometimes you get so caught up in being a wife and being a mother and working and school, whatever you may have, it's like you really don't make time for yourself.
That's right. Yeah.
So,
right. And I think there's a misconception that like me time is getting your nails done.
Exactly.
No, you know, me time is going to get a massage, or me time is so far beyond.
Like your tires changed.
Yeah, like that's maintenance. That's maintenance, but that's not that special. Yeah. And one thing that I do is I have to stay connected with God. You know, I can do nothing if I'm not getting a download from God. Like I literally need the strategies from God daily. It's not even weekly anymore. You know, like at this point in my life, it's daily. And what does that mean? That's quiet moments of meditation. That's going in my room on my planning period in the closet and praying. That's God, I'm feeling overwhelmed. Like, let me take 2 minutes. So it's beyond the day-to-day things that we do, like take yourself on a date and all that stuff is great, and you should do that stuff. But if we're not centered and like connected to a source that can give us the energy and strategy that we need, you know, our will is going to run dry at some point. So I love that you said that and that you don't feel guilty about that. Can we just give it up for her that she doesn't feel guilty? She doesn't feel guilty. Yeah, she doesn't have to feel guilty about taking care of ourselves. And we shouldn't judge each other. Can I say that, ladies? Amen. Especially as mothers, you know. And I do feel guilty sometimes, you know, when I'm here now, my kids are not with me. There are moments, yes, where I have those, you know, times of, you know, am I doing too much? Is it too, you know, but at the end of the day, it's important for me, for my sons to see me going after my dreams. Exactly. It's important for me to still carve out those moments to go outside and play baseball with my son. And for me, it's okay to do all of that. Yes. And that is what All Things Women is all about, what Winning Women is all about. We want to be sure that we're not neglecting the purpose that God put in us just for the sake of pleasing the crowd or the sake of who's going to think this if I go do this. It's got to go beyond that. You need to be checking in with the Lord himself. Now, if God checks you and says, you know, step back, reevaluate, you can spend more time with David, I do it. Right. You know what I mean? I pay attention to what's happening around me, but I no longer feel guilty about it. But I have those moments, but I always snap back and say, listen, Eboni, you know what the vision is. You know what God said to you. Check in with my husband. We go from there. You know what I'm saying? If you're married, that's important as well.
And you know what God downloaded in my spirit, because I'm very prayerful, and I'm like, I want to give the ladies something that's insightful, something that's encouraging, powerful, that they can leave with. And the word "and" came to mind. I'm precious. And I'm a mother. That's good. And I'm a wife. And I'm a business owner. But I'm precious first.
That's good.
And none of those additional roles define precious, because the reality is, without any of that, I would still be sitting here as a winning woman. Yeah, exactly. And you have to have that mindset. Because society can really put us in that box. Yeah. You know, that you're a mompreneur. And that's a great term, but if I wasn't a mom, I still would be awesome, and I still would be running a business, you know. So just that it's like a resume almost. You know, these are the additional things that are on my resume.
Yeah,
but I'm
still
that. Just precious.
My God, I'm taking that home with me. I don't know. Wow, I hope somebody got that on the clip right there. I'm going to replay that. That is really good, and I really am going to take that jewel home. You know, I was created Eboni first before I was anything else, and it's up to me to stay in contact with that creator, you know, so that I can constantly, like I said, get that download that I need.
It's easy to forget when you get caught up in everything else.
Yeah, it
really is.
Yeah. We want to make sure that we give the audience the opportunity to ask any questions. Does anyone have a particular question for Precious today? And if so, we can take that question now.
Don't be shy, guys.
Yes, ma'am.
You said you had your youngest child's how old?
8 months.
How did you get your shape back so quick?
That's one of the things that's very important to me when it comes to self-care. I have to feel like Precious, and a part of feeling like Precious is that my body has to look a certain way for me.
Yeah.
But the key is prayer. The key is water. Drinking water. Drink a gallon of water a day. But I've just been grateful, and of course you guys know my husband. If you know me, you know he's frugal. So I had to fit back into these clothes I already had. So that's the big bulk of it. You know, I didn't want to be walking around and stuff was too small because get in the car. You know,
talk about his book real quick so they can hear about his book and why he's frugal. Go ahead.
My husband has written a book. It's the 40-Day Financial Fast. It's available on Amazon. It's $10, the best $10 you will ever spend in your life. Cheaper than going to Chick-fil-A. I know, because that's my struggle. Okay, I know. Give me the nuggets with the sauce and the ketchup. But he's recently released the book. Our church has actually done the fast in the past, but so many other people outside of our church were interested in doing it as well. Basically, in the book, it teaches you how to make the best of the money you already have, because many of us feel like we don't make enough to do the things that we want to do, and the reality is we're spending too much. That we're not able to differentiate the things that we need from the things that we just want. And so this fast really, the book really is going to help the audience to take a look at your spending habits, to come face to face with the things that you can cut out in your life, and really just show you that you do have the money to do a lot of the things that we have been neglecting to do. The major 3 things in the book is to save, spend, and to serve others. And the book is designed to show you how to do all of that with the money you already have.
Love it. So listen, connect with them on social media, Precious and DL Williams.
Yes.
Please be sure to support, and let's give her a round of applause. Awesome. Did y'all like that, lady? Awesome. Some great nuggets that we're taking away. And without further ado, we're going to have our next guest, April Young, come up. She is an author, entrepreneur, an amazing wife, and clearly a fashionista diva. So we're going to invite her. So, marriage, and marriage. Wow. So you wrote a book about marriage.
Yes, ma'am.
How long have you been married?
I have been married. This is the second marriage for me as well. I've been married to my wonderful husband, Michael, for 9 years.
Okay.
And I say wonderful because God is in the midst.
Amen.
For 9 years.
Awesome. And how long were you married the first time?
The first time, it was almost 20 years.
Wow. So you have a story. You have a story of a transition. You have a story, a new book that has been written, that is being written. Just to jump right in the conversation, my first thought that comes to mind is, how did you transition from one relationship that was formed for so long into a new one, and what lessons were you able to bring
from your old marriage into your new?
The lessons I was able to bring from the old marriage into the new was that I had to totally trust in God. I believe the first time I put my trust into my ex-husband.
Yeah.
You know how you put your husband, you tend to put your husband on a pedestal and you believe that your marriage is going to last forever. You believe in that fairy tale. You think that, you're going to be married forever, you're going to grow old together, and you begin to put blindsiders on to things that are happening around you. And I believe that's where I made the mistake. And I didn't have God as my center. I was a faith-believing woman. I went to church, but I didn't have God as my center.
Okay.
So that was where the life lesson came in. God has to be the center.
How do you figure out whether God is the center or not? Because, I mean, I think, you can go to church, you can have a relationship with God, but you can still end up in a situation where God isn't the center. For the ladies in the room and our viewers watching, how would we be able to know that God is not the center? I mean, how would we know that?
You begin to run to self-pity. You begin to run to your husband for everything. You don't begin to seek his face. You don't seek his face. You begin to wallow in your worries. When you put God first, you begin to seek his face more. Prayer. Sometimes you have to turn away that plate and not run to the plate in your wallows. And begin to hear from him. When you're doing other things and you're putting other things first, you don't hear from him. You're not able to hear from him because you're so focused on everything else. But when you begin to make him your focus, you're able to hear from him. Your judgment is not clouded. And so when you know he's the center, he's able to speak to you, able to receive wisdom from him.
Taking it all in.
Wow. So he's able to give you direction. Because see, otherwise you're able to stay. If you're not getting direction from him, you're staying. You're constantly taking in stuff that you know you shouldn't be taking, and you're going to stay for the sake of, and you don't have to. That's not God's perfect plan or wisdom for you to do that. And so many women are in a trap, and they stay because of the children, which that's not a good reason to stay. And when it comes to being verbally, mentally, and physically abused, you think, okay, he's going to change. No, you have to change here. And when you change here, then you're going to start to notice some other changes as well. You don't have to take that. So you don't have to settle.
If I'm moving too fast, let me know. But now you were talking about how God is the center. Now I want to know, how do you feel that changes your perspective on being a wife? Having God as your center.
That's loaded, right?
Well, I can speak. How can I speak to that as a wife and then a woman that's transitioning from a wife being to a single state before being remarried? Can I do that?
Yes.
Okay. As a wife, we come in with our own identity, and we come in with our own mindset. We talk about two different people coming together. Right. And so your husband has a mindset, you have a mindset coming in, and you have your way of thinking, he has his. Well, as women, we're emotional beings. And if you come from a place where you may have been independent, and then you have a man that's supposed to be the leader or the priest of the home, and he comes in and he has his idea, way of things of running the house, and then you have yours. Well, at some point you're going to bump heads, right? Well, we have our own idea of, he's not going to tell me because he's not my daddy. He's not the boss of me. So then we have a conflict. So then we have a wall built up. Then we have another issue that comes in. Yeah. You know what I mean? So we have to look at the fact of, okay, it's not about me. I'm not my own person here. We have to have communication. We have to talk. But sometimes as women, especially if you're a strong woman, and not to put race in there, but a strong black woman, you're dealing with other issues outside of that. Especially if you work outside of the home, you're already dealing with that in the first place. But then you have this man that's going to try to come in and tell you what to do. You already feel like, you you're going to buck up against what God says, that you're supposed to be submissive. And I do talk about that in the book. But when you go from that to being an independent woman, then you have to be in a relationship with a husband. You know, you kind of bump heads a little bit, and that's kind of hard, especially if you're a strong woman. That's just really hard. So.
And what prompted you to write the book? When did you write the book?
I wrote the book about over a year or so ago, but it was a 1.5 year process in writing it, though. But what prompted me to write the book is I noticed there were a lot of divorces in the church. There was a lot, and I happened to be at a women's conference, a Christian women's conference, about 2.5, almost 3 years ago. And the title came to me. It just kind of started me, how to be a God wife, not just a good wife. And I was like, okay, so I thank God I wrote it down. Simply because, you know how God would give you something, and you say, oh, I'll remember that. No, you don't always remember that. So I thank God I wrote it down. And he began to give me snippets of different things he wanted me to do with that title. But, you know, how to be a God wife. We all can try to or strive to be a good wife. And most of us think that we are a good wife. But being a God wife, just being an example before your husband. You may have a husband that's not saved. He may not know the Lord. And because we, sometimes women, you know, we're in the church and we get this thing where we're above our husband and we may talk at our husband or talk down to our husband because we know the word. But that's not getting our husband that step closer to being saved or knowing Christ. Even on his worst day, you love him to Christ. You know, you can't take the word and beat him over the head with it. That's not going to get him saved. That's not going to have him have a relationship with the Lord. But just being that example before him, that's what's going to help him to get there. And you have to lead by example.
I want to go one step back. How did you come to the conclusion that you were no longer willing to accept what was happening in your first marriage? Like, how did you get to that point, if you don't mind sharing, for someone who may be in that situation? And of course, we know, we're not promoting divorce. You know, it's not about that. I just maybe want to help somebody who's maybe contemplating, but they don't know which way to go. Like, when do you know that enough is just enough? Like, I don't deserve this.
When you know it starts to affect your children, and there's someone else that enters into the marriage that shouldn't be there, and you're getting the mental, the verbal abuse, and it's in some cases physical abuse. It's not healthy. And when you have children that see this every day and you know that it's not healthy, it's time to let it go. You can pray all day and you can believe God all day, but when you see that that person has already left the marriage,
that's good.
They're too far gone. And you can believe and lay prostrate before the Lord all day long all you want, but when God says to you and you're believing him and God says to you and he releases you, listen, this is not my best for you. People come into your life for a season, and I believe at that time, at that moment for me, when it was time to go, that was just for a season in my life, and that was not God's perfect will for that season in my life to stay. And from that time that I left, and God showed me step by step what he had for me and the purpose in my life, that person was not meant to move on into my future.
That's good.
My life.
I need to pause right there. Because talk about how your purpose can change from one season to another. Because what I think, and I mean, I'm definitely, this is year 7 for us, and I'm witnessing, I think my husband and I are at a point where we both have changed. It's almost like we're starting our marriage again. So it's like, this is year number 7. I have changed tremendously, found out more about my purpose as a woman. He is in the midst of figuring out his purpose as a man. And so we're both almost 2 different people. We're not who we married. I think Alnique mentioned that in one of the groups that we're in on Facebook. Like, you almost have to learn your spouse again when you get to, and we are right there, like today. We are both learning ourselves, like, yes, like right now, at this very second. So, how do you survive the moments when you recognize that we have both changed? Like, I know way more about myself as a person now than I knew when I got married 7 years ago. So what is your advice to
to me.
I think that's y'all in here. I need this. How do you get through those moments? Like, what can you do?
With God's grace, truly, with His grace. And it's you evolve together.
Right.
And you have to, now with you evolving and with him evolving, the only thing I can say is with patience.
Yes.
Because as he evolves now, it's going to be some things that you may not understand.
Yeah.
But you have to be patient with him as you want him to be patient with you.
Yes.
But much prayer. Much prayer. I'm going to tell you, prayer works, y'all. I'm telling you, prayer. But just again, just love him. Just continue to just love him. And as you evolve and he evolves, you do it together. And that's the blessed part about it. Because as you learn and grow together, that's the best blessing in the world. My husband and I, we talk about that all the time. Because we've been together, and then I married a young man, y'all. I got a young tenderoni. I'm so happy.
Get him.
So it's a season for everything. And so I tell you, so as he's growing, and he's a mature, young man. But the thing about it is, as he's growing, and he gets to when he gets to the age where I was when we married and so forth, you learn together and you grow together, but you learn to appreciate and respect. You respect one another. And you respect, there may be stages where you may not understand. You might be saying, okay, I don't know how I'm going to deal with this or deal with you, but just give him that level of respect. Just that respect is very important.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
I'm still thinking of it too, because I do. Because I don't know, I just feel like a lot of times we kind of get so, it's like like you said, you have your own thing going on, he has his own thing going on, and it's like we don't realize that the same thing that we expect from them is what we should be getting, because so, causing
what we want.
Exactly.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So I think that's like, you said a mouthful.
You did. Hope somebody's taking notes.
The single women.
Well,
yeah, we're going to do another show for the single. We won't have enough time. We won't have enough time.
Don't settle.
She said don't settle. We're going to just hashtag don't settle. Don't settle.
Don't settle.
Yes.
But give us, as we wrap up, we're going to take a brief intermission, but as we wrap up, can you give us, she clapping like, yeah, don't settle. Yeah. Can you give us, first of all, let us know how we can buy the book, and can you give us like one takeaway from the book as we wrap up?
Let's see. Okay, first of all, it can be, you can get it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. Title is How to Be a God Wife, Not Just a Good Wife. Yes. And you can also get it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Books A Million also has it as well. And Zulon Press.
Go ahead, Mom.
Yeah, Zulon. That's right, Zulon. Books.
And you can get it today.
And you get it today at this back table as well. But see, Sister Sabrina back there at the back table.
Your publicist is on it. She's like, today.
Yes.
So one thing you want to leave us with, one jewel you want to leave us with.
Let's see, one jewel I want to leave you with. I think I've already said it. With your husband, even on his worst day, love him back to Christ. Even on his worst day.
Awesome. Well, can we give her a hand? This was awesome. Thank you so much, April. We're going to definitely support your book. And we're going to take a brief intermission and come back for part 2. But first, we have a question.
I had a question. So I heard you say that you discovered that God, it was very important that God was the center of your marriage.
Yes.
At what point did you discover that? Was it prior to your second marriage or at some point in your second marriage? And
Go ahead.
And how did you make that transition if it was in the center of your second marriage?
I made that transition right at the end of my second marriage when I knew that I was going through a transition. Because my first marriage, at the end of my first marriage, because I knew that I wasn't going to be single long. And I knew that. I knew that, and I knew that because God had already placed it in my spirit that I was a wife, and that was His plan for me to be a wife. And so I received that because I was not meant to be single, and I knew that He was going to have a God man for me, and He did. But when I realized that, I knew that whatever God had for me in a second marriage, that He was going to be the center. That was my promise to Him. And that the man that He had for me was going to understand that, and he was going to respect that. And that being said, I told God that I wanted to wait before I was intimate and having sex with anyone. And that the man that He had for me was going to understand that. And that's that man that's standing back. If He's the one for you, He will understand and respect that. So that's a takeaway.
Wow, I love it. We actually have one more question. Come on with it.
After your first marriage, in between getting married again, were you looking for a man? Were you searching for a man? Or you just doing you and God?
I was doing me because I had never been single prior to I left from home to being married and being a mother. I was just doing me, living my life and trying to be the woman that God had prepared for me to be. And I knew that whoever he was going to find me. That's right. And that young man found me. From Mississippi.
All over Mississippi. That is amazing. Wow. Well, amen. She just energized me. I don't know. My faith has been strengthened. So we're going to take a very brief intermission for about 5 minutes. And while we're doing that, make sure you meet somebody that you have not met yet. Please make sure you take some pictures, some selfies, and use the hashtag #TheArtOfAWoman. All right.